What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk night one, or part one, or day one, or section one, or whatever you want to talk about when it comes to WrestleMania 36. It's April 4th. This event just went down a couple minutes ago. We are going to talk about our first impressions, our overall thoughts, our positives, our negatives, and all the other stuff that we normally do here in the Pay-Per-Viewpoint. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
I actually left with a smile on my face.
And Callum Wiggins.
This podcast isn't big enough for one night.
No, it is not. So we will see you in the next part tomorrow, and we won't tell you what that's going to be until the last second, because that's apparently what you do here. If you've been following my mental state, I guess you know that I am hanging on by a thread at this point. And WrestleMania, we're going to go all over the place here. You are going to get positives. You're going to get negatives. You are going to get what, who was it on Twitter had referred to as going nuclear. I forget exactly the wording, what it was, but it was something along those lines. Let me double check it while I have my phone ready and all that other kind of stuff, because I thought it was pretty funny. But it was Randy had said, I think it was Randy. Oh, wait. Now I'm losing it. Sorry. Not remembering exactly 100% for sure, but the idea that we would go nuclear, I will in some ways. There's going to be some moments where I am going to just flip out, and there's going to be some things that I'm going to praise. So, I know it was Philo Sarcasm. That's who it was. So, thank you for the comment. He had said, if everything goes the way I think it'll go, Tony Mango and Solid Monster will napalm the shit out of this show. That's what it was. So I do want to preface the podcast with a little bit of that, because if you're expecting all good or all bad, it's not going to be one way or the other. And I will preface this with another thing that I will potentially mention multiple times. Kudos to everybody in WWE who was able to pull off what they were able to pull off. I hated a lot of this show, but I still want to give mad respect to them busting their asses, doing as good of a job as they could have done given the circumstances, giving people something that they are hoping is a great escape from the horrible stuff that's going on nowadays, and genuinely trying, because you could tell throughout the night they were trying. It doesn't mean that they succeeded. It doesn't mean they had the best game plan going into this. It doesn't mean that the event would have, if they would have copied and pasted the exact same thing and put it in front of a crowd, that it would have been great. Not giving them excuses when it comes to that, and I'm going to full on crap on some of this stuff, but I will give a lot of credit to them for just doing this in general, and for giving some people some things they really enjoyed, because a lot of people did enjoy some of these things from this night, including myself. So thank you to all those people before I crap on it in some ways, and praise about the certain specifics too. I want also everybody listening to drop their comments below, of course, as always, because I want to know what everybody else has to say about this, positive or negative. You could agree or disagree with what we're saying. No problems with that whatsoever. I fully welcome the discussion. And if you are listening to us on the platforms that don't have a comment section, like Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or whatever it may be, then I advise you to either go to the pages on smarkoutmoment.com and leave a comment there, or send a tweet or something on Facebook, or better yet, best of all, leave a comment below on the YouTube channel, because this podcast is also on YouTube if you're listening elsewhere. And if you're heading on over there and you drop your comments and you kind of keep the discussion going and everything like that, you can also subscribe to the channel, and you can also ring that little notification bell, which will alert you of when videos get posted and when we go live for different things, because we've been trying to test that out recently. We did the hot tags live. I wanted to do this live, but still having some issues. So we're going to try to do live stuff coming up soon, maybe, depending on lots of different circumstances. And that'll be the best way for you to know when we go live and be able to hop on and join the discussion with us. Also, give the video a like if you like it. That helps out quite a bit. I will talk plenty of other plugs later on. Patreon wise, merchandise shop wise, all that other kind of stuff. But you guys had said you guys had a smile on your face and such. So, general question, what are you thinking? We had a lot of speculations and a lot of curiosities going into Mania. Now we know this is what it's going to be. How was it?
Not as bad as I thought it would be.
I think the biggest compliment that I can give this is that I don't think this is the worst WrestleMania of all time.
What would you
That
say?
says a lot.
What would you
I
say
watched
is?
that and thought I would watch this show again over WrestleMania 11, WrestleMania 9, and WrestleMania 27.
Yeah, fair enough.
It doesn't mean that it's great, but the lack of the crowd does obviously hurt it, and some of the matches weren't great, and a lot of the first half of the show I could have buried it quite heavily, and I thought at that point it was heading in the very negative trajectory, but it picked up in the second half, and so and the fact that it was pretty short and digestible meant it was pretty watchable by the end of it. I didn't expect it to be this good.
This is about as long as an episode of Raw, and episodes of Raw have far bored me to tears and dragged on way more than this did. And again, I think it says something. It doesn't give them all the credit, but it says something when you pace it right and you leave people happy. Because, I mean, one change on this card, and maybe I don't leave happy. But they played it right, and I think it worked out for the best.
Having obviously said all that, we are only halfway through. So technically WrestleMania 36 isn't over yet. It's only halfway through, but I think the second half would have to be pretty just overall terrible for it to leave like the first half, like just leave a worse taste out of that one. But overall, I have to say I'm more than satisfied with what I saw.
It's funny you brought up Raw because my thoughts afterward were kind of leaning in the direction of if this were an episode of Monday Night Raw, I would love it. I would still not like the lack of the crowd and that kind of thing, but if this were Raw, I would think it would be a spectacular show. If this were a B-level event like Backlash or Extreme Rules or whatever, Super Showdown, something like that, then, well, they're not really B shows because they're more important than other things, but you know what I mean. I had mentioned before the idea that I thought that this could potentially be Stomping Grounds or something like that instead. Like, then I'd go, yeah, not that bad. But of course, the fact that you slapped the WrestleMania name on it, and the fact that I know that this is the time of the year that's supposed to be the most important, and this is, you know, there's a lot of outside factors I'm fully aware are making me biased in certain ways. Like, I really am negative about this whole headspace right now with pro wrestling because of the fear of losing my job. Like, you know, kind of pull the curtain back on that, because if we don't have wrestling for a while, what do I report on? You know what I mean? It's pretty, like, yeah, standard kind of operating procedure when it comes to that. And the idea that it's like, this is something that we all look forward to as like, well, the one thing we can count on is we're supposed to be able to count on WrestleMania being like the big thing that's fun and it's worth all the effort and all that. And I didn't get that feeling at all. And that weighed on me a lot throughout the night because I just felt depressed. And the fact that this was WrestleMania instead of something like even Money in the Bank or even Survivor Series or, I mean, the Royal Rumble is my favorite type of thing. And if they couldn't do the Royal Rumble at Royal Rumble, then that's screwed. But like, if this were to have been SummerSlam, it wouldn't upset me as much. Because SummerSlam doesn't mean as much to me as WrestleMania does. And I feel like there's no way to avoid that kind of, I don't know if this is going a little overboard when it comes to the term, but like mourning of WrestleMania. You know, like the stages of grief of being like, you know, when do you get the acceptance level? I haven't quite gotten to that yet. Right now, I'm past, like, I don't know how the levels are, I forget, but it's like past the bargaining because that's not happening, past this, whatever, just in the goddamn, this sucks kind of thing. And I'm sure at some point the acceptance thing will come around and I'll look back on this event and I'll be able to go, you know what, that wasn't bad for this, was whatever. And this was a weird time frame that this happened, isn't it? And, look back on it like that. But at least for tonight, immediately after the event, I feel very deflated. I feel kind of sad, kind of angry, like a mix of stuff, but there's not a smile on my face, even though there are some things that I did enjoy. So I'm going to be the negative Nancy here.
Well, I mean, it's totally understandable given everything you're going through, but I think if you look at, like, even the kickoff show, the Cesaro Gulak match, it wasn't even that long, but they hit the right notes. And I feel like one of the good things about not having a crowd and it being forced to be split in 2 nights, I felt like nothing overstayed its welcome.
I actually feel like some things should have gone a little bit longer in some ways. Well, let's start things off with the kickoff. Normally, of course, if this were... I think it's funny that, like, I don't want to go on too much of a side note, but when I was writing this up about something, I forget if it's even something that I already posted or if it's something I deleted or whatever, I don't know. But I was thinking about the whole too big for one night thing, and I was like, it is funny to think that if they weren't in this situation, it wouldn't be 2 nights because they wouldn't have split it up in the way that they did. And it also would not have had that tagline of too big for one night, which would have meant that it would have been just fine for one night originally with the plan. And it would have been some 9-hour long show kind of a thing or something like that. And that, of course, changes some things around because I have never been a big fan of 2-hour kickoffs. And I think that the 2-hour kickoffs are only salvageable if you have multiple matches on them. And at that point, why have that be constituted a kickoff? Why not do an hour kickoff with no matches and that other hour just be the matches? And you just, you don't need 4 hours of WrestleMania and a 2-hour kickoff if you could do 5 hours of WrestleMania and a 1-hour kickoff. That makes more sense to me. They did a 1-hour kickoff tonight, and it included a match that they had announced today. Today they announced 2 kickoff matches. They changed the SmackDown tag title thing. So that was fun to wake up to. And there's so much fucking saltiness in my voice. They had Corey Graves and Peter Rosenberg in like the studio, and it was unoffensive. It was a kickoff the way that I expected it to be. They were running down some of the matches, and they had the backstage people, Renee Young and Mark Henry and Booker T, kind of giving their thoughts about some matches here and there and stuff. So they did what they could, and I commend them for doing as well as they could have. And then we had the Drew Gulak versus Cesaro match, which JBL on commentary referred to as Drew Gulag, which I thought was funny. I spent most of the match having to change a bunch of things, so I didn't really get to see all of it. I had to change which matches they were announcing because they waited until the kickoff started to say, these are the matches of today and whatever, and we're changing this. So I had to alter a bunch of things. So by the time I got around to that, I missed a little bit of it. But I did see one note that I had written down that I liked quite a bit was the airplane spin that Cesaro had done. That was cool.
I thought this was very fast-paced, and it really felt like the opening of an Evolve card, or like, just a kind of indie wrestler, fast-paced grappling style opener. I enjoyed it, and the right guy won. Good for Cesaro.
Yeah, speaking on the kickoff show as a whole, when I saw that it was going to be Pete Rosenberg and Corey Graves essentially leading the entire thing, I kept it on to the point where they told me what matches were taking place that night. Then I immediately hit mute, did something else for a while because I don't want to listen to those guys talk, and then turned it back on to watch the Gulak and Cesaro match, which was, I thought it was a pretty good match. It's between 2 people that can clearly work a style where they don't need to have a crowd associated with it. They can just concentrate on actually fighting each other and telling a realistic enough story. Gulak kept going for the submission hold. He got Cesaro into the S-lock on one occasion. Cesaro kept fighting back with the uppercuts and the power moves, and then one with that cool-looking airplane spin where he just grabs his waist while Gulak's just swinging on his back. if that's something that they're trying to get over as a new finisher for him, then that's good because it's a cool looking move, and it kind of makes up for the fact that he doesn't really do the swing that much anymore.
Yeah, why doesn't he do that as much anymore?
Because it's a babyface thing.
Shame. Can't have fun things.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the match.
Then we had the beginning of the show itself, which, because we have these kind of circumstances, nobody was singing America the Beautiful, so they just did a video package of people in the past singing America the Beautiful, which I guess is as good as you could possibly ask for.
I thought this was better than having somebody sing it live. I mean, this is, look at the history. Look at all the people we've had do it. Ray Charles has done it. Aretha Franklin did it twice. John Legend. I thought this was like a really cool way to go, hey, look at how much fun we always try to give you, and we know we can't give you that. So just enjoy this nice little video package.
I honestly thought that they were going to have somebody do it. I thought that they would have filmed 2 renditions of it, one for tonight and one for tomorrow. So that took me by surprise. But I mean, it's America the Beautiful. It's not the most important thing on the card. So even if they would have skipped that entirely, I would have just been a note of, we didn't get it this year. Yeah. And we had an opening video package of all this pirate shit. And I thought that this was weird. I mean, I get it, but not a fan.
No, I thought the video package was awful. I think it was way too overdone. They did too much goofy shit in the start of it, where they put this like fake Jack Sparrow voice.
Mm-hmm. That's the worst part.
Unless that was Johnny Depp, but I'd highly doubt that.
No, he acknowledged that it's just some bootleg Jack Sparrow voice.
Yeah,
but it was just supposed to be your cheesy, hey, we're WrestleMania in Tampa Bay. I guess they didn't feel like filming a new intro, so they just ran with that one.
No, I completely agree that they probably just ran with the same one that they had before. But even if that was the one that they had before and it was in a stadium, that still would have sucked as a video package trope. It was just way too overdone, way too overblown. The goofy stuff, the bits at the end where they actually just showed a lot of wrestlers getting ready for matches and some clips of some of the feuds, that was fine. All the rest of it was just way, way, way too cheesy.
I'm over the themed WrestleManias. I know that they do that because it's like extra character because you don't want to say what number it is. But I'm really over we're in New Orleans, so it's got to be a Mardi Gras, and we're in Tampa, so let's do Buccaneers. Like, just do WrestleMania and just have it be the spectacle of, your superstars reaching the apex. I think something like this, everything that's going on, should show them, hey, let's kind of have a uniform WrestleMania that we can do in any situation.
I mean, I like the theme if the theme's done well. Like, I didn't mind at all. For instance, like at the end of the night, they advertised WrestleMania being in Los Angeles, and I don't know if anybody else had the same feeling that I did, but it was just like, oh my god, please be better. Like, just kind of, we just like skip the next year's WrestleMania already, kind of thing.
I got a text from a friend that said, "Oh boy, I love how optimistic WWE is. They're acting like we won't be zombies by next year."
Whereas Callum and I were saying when we were setting up the audio for this, by that point, Cthulhu's going to pop up and just go crazy and give us something else, a WrestleMania themed Cthulhu.
I mean, surely WWE would be happy if we were zombies by next year, because then they would be at the intelligence level that they think we are, and they'd make their storylines and stuff like that.
Everybody just tunes in and they're just like, Roman Reigns. Just kinda... But then we had another intro, or third intro. We had the kickoff, the America the Beautiful, the intro, and the intro. And this was Rob Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley basically going, yo, bro, oh, fuck, oh my god, it's WrestleMania. Stupid. I'm sure that this would have been better if it would have been in front of people and not just 2 guys by themselves.
Would it have?
At least then you would have heard the background of like,
No, I agree with you that it sucked, but I also think that it was better in this situation because it meant that it was only happened for a couple of minutes. Whereas if it was in front of a crowd, Gronkowski would have a huge entrance where he'd come out for like 5 minutes, dancing and pumping each post before he gets into the ring, and then he would do the thing with Mojo Rawley, and they would get like they would he would eat up 10 minutes of time as opposed to like the 2 minutes they had here.
And let's not forget, he might still do more shit.
Oh, like, he will do, yeah.
Well, I think I would have been more okay with a weird entrance like that, taking up 10 minutes and maybe incorporating some different things and getting rid of, for instance, Elias versus King Corbin on this card.
See, but that's the problem. If all went according to plan, we would have gotten everything we got and more crammed into one night.
I don't think that's the case, though. I mean, I can't imagine that their game plan was Drew Gulak versus Cesaro on the card, for instance. Because you got to figure, like, tomorrow we're supposed to get Natalya versus Liv Morgan. They could not have possibly been, like, planning out WrestleMania and going, all right, probably the day of WrestleMania, we're going to announce that those two are going to fight with no, whatever. Like, they would have been in the Women's Battle Royal. And
they would have been in the Battle Royal, but we would have gotten Battle Royals that would have been, would have went nowhere. And we would have gotten a bunch of dumb sketches with Gronk and Mojo. I'm okay with the fact that the no crowd forced this to be a 2-segment thing instead of a 10-segment thing.
Well, that led us into the first match of the night, which was for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Kabuki Warriors going in as champions. They're facing Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. And I think things started off pretty well. I had written down Bliss seems really fired up and energetic. I thought that it was funny that Kyrie was like messing around with the whole like, oh, aren't you cute? Like, let me like slap you around and whatever like that. I thought it was funny that Nikki Cross was clapping as if the crowd would get pumped up. I guess it's just like muscle memory and you just forget after a while. And as awkward as it was to watch the stuff in front of nobody and to know that this is supposed to be WrestleMania, I thought that they did a pretty damn good job. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the titles changing hands because I think that this just kind of doesn't really do anything for anybody for the most part, but I liked the match. And at this point, I was feeling a little bit optimistic about things. How'd you guys feel?
I was quite up and down with this match. I feel like all the people involved worked really hard. They put in some decent performances. Obviously, I'm a big fan of both Asuka and Kairi Sane. I thought them being in control for most of the match worked out really well. You've had some spots like Bliss doing a senton off the ring apron to the floor, Nikki Cross just going crazy with crossbodies and stuff like that. I thought it may have been a bit much to have 2 hot tag spots in a match where there's absolutely no crowd to cheer them on. That was a little bit on the nose, but the thing that really caught me about this were like 3 things which annoyed me, and it has a couple things that had something to do with the performance, but not as much. One was that JBL's mic got really quiet during the match. And to be fair, that might have been more of a benefit than anything else, but it just like really threw me off with the fact that, wow, you've taped all this in advance and JBL's mic is just completely quiet and yet you can't do anything to fix it. Like you just let it just run with him just basically talking as Rob was before we started recording. But then after that you had like camera cuts. There were far too many camera cuts on the outside, but Kevin Dunn is in control, so you come to expect that when you watch WWE. And the final thing, which was definitely the fault of Alexa Bliss at the very least, was the finish. She absolutely whiffed the Twisted Bliss and landed right on Kairi Sane's legs, rather than where she's supposed to land. And so it's a bit odd. That's the final move. Everything else you can kind of botch. I'm not saying you botch every single move, but you can botch other moves and it doesn't become as noticeable. Or if you recover from it with other stuff, then it's fine. But if that's the finishing move and you just land it completely wrong, it just kind of spoils the finish quite a bit. But other than that, I thought it was a solid match.
You're going to hear me use this phrase a few times tonight. This was better than it had any right to be. And I think this was one of the matches that benefited from it being a 2-night Mania where this didn't get slapped on the kickoff with 2 other teams. And I thought it was a fun match for what it was. And they made a big deal about Nikki Cross. Whoever is, I guess Vince, but whoever's really in charge of SmackDown is loving themselves some Nikki Cross because she's been getting more and more airtime lately. I think Asuka and Kairi losing 4 months later to the same team they beat when they only had one major defense in between kind of sucks, but it's WrestleMania. The babyface has to win, and I can live with that.
I thought it was weird that one of the highlights of the match was Nikki Cross just being like, let me rip off my top, kind of, and like, whatever. Like, I wasn't expecting that. But I overall, I liked it. And there was a part of me that was just like, yeah, this might not be all that bad. And then we moved to Elias versus King Corbin. And
Whoa. Before we move on to that, I want to talk about this trailer for this, the main event movie.
Oh, please do. I didn't get your take on that.
It absolutely sucks. This movie looks like it's going to be completely terrible. But I will say that the trailer was slightly better than the trailer for the Big Show show, which looks even worse.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, that now's probably a good time to mention it. We don't know exactly, of course, what's going to happen with the future of WWE and the content that we're going to be able to talk about and all that other kind of stuff going forward, because my game plan was, hey, we'll do the Smark Madness tournament thing, we'll do the quarterly mailbag, and then we'll start doing NXT TakeOver Dublin, and then we'll get in the Money in the Bank, and we don't know. So, in the meantime, if we don't have anything to really talk about, and if we are trying to fill in the gap and trying to give you guys a little bit more stuff to do during this whole quarantine thing and stuff like that, if you want us to, and if we have the time and all the other kind of things that go along with that, we may watch the Big Show and the main event and do some kind of either, I'm thinking more so watch all the episodes of the Big Show and do reviews after each episode. Maybe even on like the Darkcast or something. I'm not too sure. And then for the main event, possibly all of us watching that for the first time during a fan announce table.
I think we need to.
Where we just get our very first reactions of just like, wait, okay, so who's this kid? What's he? Oh, wait, what's happening? Oh my God, that's ridiculous. And some different things like that. That's what I'm currently thinking, because these seem so awful that I feel like we kind of have to watch them. Sort of. So if you want to make sure we do that, head up to Patreon, because the Patreon is going to be monumental going forward, depending on a lot of different factors. And there are things that you may be helping out with that you don't even know about. But $1 goes a long way, especially from all the people that are subscribed to this channel, because if everybody that subscribed donated $1 a month, I wouldn't have anything to worry about. That's not me trying to guilt trip. It's just me being truthful and honest and showing how $1 does go a long way the more people do it. But there's the $5 and $10 and so on and so forth up. Of course, it all depends on what spare change people have that they are able to help out with. But $10 and up gives you access to the Darkcast. And when we've got something like the Pick Your Poison tier, if you do have the ability to take advantage of that, you really want us to do something in particular, take advantage of it, donate, we'll do it. So keep that in your mind, stay tuned, that kind of stuff. Because that stuff, the main event and the Big Show, they're giving me like The Room vibes in some ways. But then we went to Elias versus King Corbin.
Yeah, this is bad.
So, I like Elias.
I don't.
I think that he is somebody who's got a good look to him. I think he can talk pretty well. I like his gimmick. I'm not the biggest fan of him in the ring. Like, I kind of feel like he's more of a character outside of the ring than he is in the ring and all that, but he's got a good look to him, and he can wrestle to a certain extent. Like, I wouldn't expect him to do an Iron Man match and tear the house down, but he can get the job done here and there. And I am one of the few people that's unapologetically a fan of King Corbin. I think that he has got a lot of the right tools to succeed and to do some great stuff, and I've liked some of the things he's done in the past and all that. But I did not like this feud from the start, and I kept hoping that they would do something more to make it better. And it seemed, oddly enough, like they could have potentially done that when they started involving Rob Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley. And then they did an injury angle. And the idea, as far as even last night on SmackDown, was we don't know if Elias is going to be able to medically get cleared to compete. Gonna find out at WrestleMania. Second match into WrestleMania, they go, yeah, he is. And then they have a match. And nothing happens in the match. It just happens. And it ends. And Elias gets a pin with holding Corbin's tights.
No, my favorite was yesterday on SmackDown when Cole goes, "We have breaking news. Elias is okay." Like, okay, sure. This match sucked. I said it before on the previews. We didn't like Roman versus Corbin, but I think even Corbin is a little bit above this. And this was lame. This was like one of those random, like Edge and Booker T. They're fine together in 2002, but it's lame. That's how I feel about this match.
Yeah, this match had one highlight, which was Corbin shouting at the announce table that they should be telling people how good he is. And then just, everything else from that was just a really boring, slow, uninspiring match. I think, even though I'm not a huge fan of Corbin, and anyone listening to this knows this point, I don't think that he's bad in the ring. I just think that he's really overexposed for his level of ability in basically anything. And Elias gets worse and worse with every passing year. And he's now nowhere near as over as he was. He's got nowhere near as strong a character. And he's only ever been just average in the ring. So you put two people in the ring that are pretty much average and don't really have too much of an inspiring character or interesting factors about them right now. They produce a boring match, has a lame finish where Corbin tries to get his foot on the rope to make the pin, and then he gets rolled up with the tights. It was really, really dull. And I hope that they wouldn't even have considered putting this on the card if this was an actual stadium show and they had other options available to them.
And I feel like that's one of those things that I could complain about without knowing, because of course we don't know. And that itself is something that I kind of want to a little bit complain about ahead of time. I desperately want them to clarify what the hell they were thinking with a lot of these things. I can't tell you how much it'll annoy me if, like, by next year, we still have no word whatsoever about, well, we were planning on doing this and this happened instead or whatever. If this is like June 2021 and everybody's just like, WrestleMania happened and that's the way that it was, and la 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 la, I'm not going to hear anything else or something like that, I'm going to be really furious because I need to know what their plans were and everything. I like hearing those kind of stories as it is before there's even train wreck type stuff. Like I want to know whether or not Lex Luger was the plan to beat Yokozuna at WrestleMania and he spoiled it in a bar. Is that a rumor? Is that true? Tell me. It's interesting. For something like this, I want to know, Elias versus King Corbin, was that the plan 3 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, last year, like whatever it is, or when they were setting up this whole thing? Because it seemed like they were setting it up back when they were actually able to do SmackDown in front of like people, like, prior to Elimination Chamber and such. It seemed like they were setting up Elias versus King Corbin, and it felt like, well, come on, they can't really just put like Elias versus King Corbin on there, can they? Like, this is WrestleMania. What the hell? This is not WrestleMania 2, where you just have one of the killer bees against somebody or something. Like, come on, it's not the same thing. And if that was their plan, then what the hell, guys? Like, I like these two guys and I wouldn't dream of putting them in a match at WrestleMania together because it doesn't mean anything. And this injury angle was just, it's so dumb. I hate it when they do stuff like that. Just, we're going to give you this mystery kind of thing. What's going to happen? Is it going to be what we think it is? Yes, it is. And you're like, okay, that's all right. It's like J.J. Abrams with a stupid mystery box or something like that. And I don't want to go on a whole Last Jedi rant, but that made me go, crap. Okay, well, we went from a match that I was like, that's not that bad, to the hell was that? Because we didn't even get Gronkowski in here. And at least if this would have been a segment where he would have, like, I was thinking that maybe what they would have done is Elias isn't medically cleared to compete and Corbin wants the forfeit. And then Gronkowski comes out and he's like, no, you know what? I'm going to wrestle you instead. Because maybe this applies to tomorrow. I don't know. We're still only halfway in, but there's been a lot of reports that are saying Gronkowski did things at WrestleMania that you would not expect him to do.
The problem with that is Triple H in the same interview said,
we're going to talk
Roman
about that.
Reigns thing is going to be so unique. And I know we're going to talk about that, but I just wanted to
so
throw that out there.
That's like, if we were doing the video thing right now, you'd see me biting my tongue. Like, okay. Breathe. Goose Fraba. What was that other one? There's Goose Fraba and there's something else. I don't know. It's another movie where somebody says something like that, something like Goose Fraba or whatever. That went into the Raw Women's Championship match. It was like, already, we're doing Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler, with a match that I would have thought would have been a potential main event. But the fact that it happened around this time made me go, oh, this isn't good. Because there's been a lot of reports that Vince at Survivor Series was not all that impressed with Shayna Baszler, and we got to take that with a grain of salt. Nobody knows for sure if that's true or not. But then there's been multiple reports since then that he didn't like her match with Kairi Sane, and he doesn't really see what's going on with her, and that he's not a big fan of her. And then when you see stuff like the Elimination Chamber compared to the Royal Rumble, and you go, okay, so he didn't want to give her the Royal Rumble thing, which is bigger, and they figured, well, we don't really need to do that much of a setup. We could just have her beat everybody in the chamber, and that's our one thing that we'll do, and the bite thing, and the rest of it will just work itself out. We did two things. There's your match at WrestleMania, like that kind of thing. They didn't seem all that invested in that. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, we're getting this match already. That's not a good sign. Let me get that stupid truck, the big rig thing that we've seen for like 4 times already by now. And somehow...
We've seen it twice, I believe, but I understand your point.
It seems like it's been once a week, or maybe, I mean, at this point it has, because they just go, oh, this is what happened last week. Did you see the thing that happened? But somehow this was worse than what they did before. The silence of it all and having her like mean mugging it into the performance center. I hated this. And I already wrote this down as the one and only thing that I've written down so far for worst entrance of the year. This obviously would have been better at Raymond James Stadium, and they would have done something. I'm sure they would have had some pyro. I'm sure she would have driven out on the actual stage. I'm not a truck guy. I'm not a car guy. I don't give a shit about boats. I have no interest in airplanes. I couldn't care less about motorcycles. I'm not somebody who's into that kind of stuff. So already, if you tell me anybody, whether it's Triple H, Undertaker, Eddie Guerrero, anything where it's like they came out in a car, I'm like, okay. And that's about it. Because unless it's got enough personality behind it, like goes with the character like JBL with his limo, or Eddie Guerrero, the way that he had the lowrider thing, like that's more entertaining than just Becky Lynch is in a truck thing and she just drives a couple feet, honks the horn a couple times, comes out and is like, I'm mad. So dumb. And
my issue with that is, what about Becky Lynch says, oh yeah, we need her in a diesel truck?
Yeah, she's not even diesel.
That would have been a good entrance for Kevin Nash.
Yeah. It's just, isn't she the man? Isn't this, it's tough. It's big.
Only men drive trucks.
I did not like that, but what did you guys think about the entrance?
I thought I think I just explained it.
I mean, like, what, still yay or nay, but okay, so definitely nay.
No, stupid.
Callum?
I mean, it doesn't bother me.
Just it was just a thing.
I can't say I particularly like it, but it's just there.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't offend me, doesn't do anything for me in a positive light either. It's just something that happened.
Fair enough.
They're bigger fish to fry in this match.
My first note, other than that, was smackety smack. If they keep striking each other like the start of this could be fun. And then I started thinking throughout the match, man, this match really needed a crowd. And seeing Becky fight back, like, the crowd would have been into it. The audience would have been like, let's go Becky. Like, oh yeah, she got. And that would have helped out Shayna Baszler too, because Baszler works well when it's like, oh damn it, like, she's attacking the people we like and whatever. And I just felt kind of blah. I wasn't really digging it. And then my WWE Network glitched out for me on the pinfall that finished the match. And throughout the entire rest of the night, no matter what happened, no matter how many times I clicked on it, no matter how many times I refreshed it, I could not at all rewind the pay-per-view. It didn't matter if it was the 20 minutes after this. It didn't matter if I was trying to get to the very beginning of it. It never once let me hit the rewind button. So I have not seen the pinfall. I saw Becky Lynch go into the pinfall, and then it like reloaded itself and it couldn't load, and then I had to reload it again, and the next thing I know, it was Shayna Baszler looking upset and Becky's music playing, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, it couldn't have happened when they were just doing, like, a couple of smacks or something like that. Like, so admittedly, that's not something that I can judge the match on, but I will say that ruined my mood for a lot of that, because I was just like, I'm already so above and beyond stressed and annoyed and frustrated and all this stuff. And I'm like, and I missed the end of one of the most important matches. The hell with it. There was a part of me that was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to say that I don't want to cover WrestleMania. And I was really considering it at that point. So how did it go down? Because I still haven't seen it yet. I mean, she went for the Karafuda clutch and she reversed it into a pin. But was it
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Did it come out like, kind of like, whoa, okay, cool? Or was it like, wait, that's the end?
For me, it was like, yeah, it was like, what? It's over? Okay. I guess we're moving on. This felt really, really blah. Like, from everything, they started off hot for like 3 minutes to me, and then it seemed like I blinked and it was over. And then for Shayna Baszler to not even like get up and beat the fuck out of Becky, she just was sort of like, oh my god, I've lost. I don't know what to do now. And just walked to the back, and Becky posed. And this, more than anything, and maybe it's not fair because of the lack of people and everything, but this made me feel like, okay, Becky's peak was last year. She's just another player again, because it didn't feel like a big moment. It didn't feel like anything. It just felt like, okay, Becky kind of out-wrestled her, and we're done here.
Yeah, I kind of agree in certain respects. I felt like this was one of the matches that would, I wouldn't say benefit from a lack of a crowd, but would do well in spite of the fact there wasn't going to be a crowd there. And I think for the most part, it was a decent match. It just felt a little bit inertic, really. It just was a bit it's kind of just a match that's happening on this show. It didn't feel anywhere near as good as the recent like Becky and Asuka matches that have taken place. So in that regard, it was disappointing. Baszler did do some cool stuff, like the Tiger Bomb, power bomb that transitioned straight into an armbar. I thought that was a good spot, which I hadn't really seen her do too much before. Like swinging Becky Lynch's head repeatedly into the announce table. But yeah, it did seem to just go by pretty quickly without too much of anything of note really happening. They did the whole Bret Hart spot where you roll them up from a clutch position, and the heel stupidly loses because they refuse to break the clutch because that would release the pinfall. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was the finish to the first Ember Moon Shayna Baszler match as well, when they were fighting over the NXT Championship a few years ago.
It might be. This is a trope that they tend to go back to when the person has a sleeper or a clutch type finisher.
Yeah. And yeah, I was surprised that Becky got the victory. It's a weird way to go, because obviously we don't know what the future holds regardless, but it just seems odd that Becky wins this match, and essentially she's already beaten everybody on the Raw roster, or she's pushed herself so far ahead of everyone else on the Raw roster that Baszler was seen as the person to beat on her level, and now she's beaten her. So who's next, essentially?
So now is a good time to bring up something that I was shocked that they did during the pre-show. They advertised the Raw after Mania, although as though it was going to be this monumental, oh my god, it's the craziest night of the year. And I think they might have even left the word live in there. But
yeah, it said live still.
Yeah, which is obnoxious, but forgivable. I don't know why they're acting like it's going to be a big show, the Raw after Mania. But even if it's through vignette, are we getting Ronda?
Well, I mean, we know why they're acting like it's a big deal. It's because WWE always will lie to you. I mean, not like, it's not like they're going to say, that orange is purple, like that, not that kind of thing. But like,
I'm just imagining the title card now, like WWE lies, then, now,
forever.
Yeah.
Well, then it would be then, now. But they're always going to act like, I mean, we're never going to hear that this was a bad WrestleMania. Like, if tomorrow goes down 10 times worse than it did today, and everybody goes, all right, you know what, screw it, even the good things from the first night, it doesn't balance out, whatever, they are never going to admit it unless it's things like WWE 24 and somebody goes, I mean, it wasn't really the best. But they're never going to go, well, we're sorry, everybody, that we couldn't put on a great show or something. They're going to go, didn't we have a great time? Isn't this amazing? Aren't you so happy? Don't you want to buy more of our stocks? Like, they're going to do that kind of thing. So I'm sure that they're going to plug the hell out of this as, remember the Raw after WrestleMania, it's crazy. You never know what's going to happen. Please tune in. We need the ratings because they're going to tank in a couple weeks. And if they piss everybody off because they act like it's going to be a big deal and nothing happens, then, well, at least we got more ratings from you the 1 week. You know what I mean? So I don't buy into it. I mean, at this point, the more that WWE talks something up, the less that I get excited for it. And the more that they just kind of go, this is sort of a thing, and I guess you might like it, the more I'm like, that might be kind of interesting, because then they can play around with some things and stuff. So if they did hype up WrestleMania as being like the normal WrestleMania leading into the Raw after WrestleMania being this monumental thing, then we pretty much know for sure that nothing's going to happen. And if Ronda Rousey pops up, that wouldn't shock me, because I do feel like at this point, Shayna, not that she's like done.
Shayna was the one.
And for some people that are like, oh, they buried her. They didn't bury her. She lost to Becky Lynch, who's been a champion for a year and won the main event of WrestleMania last year and was the, winner take all and all that. It's not like she lost to Hornswoggle or something. But they kind of did her dirty, I think, a little bit, because they're in a situation where they didn't set her up well enough that she can survive this and look like as much of a badass. And now that Becky retained, which I don't hate, for the record, I understand why they went with Becky. I feel like they went with Becky because she's still more reliable, and they can kind of depend on her being a champion in a rough time more so than Shayna. I get it. But Shayna's not going to look good out of this. And unless they do something drastic to change that, I don't know how they rehab her and she doesn't just fall apart.
So, you know how Lashley should have totally fucking fought Brock Lesnar by now because he's legitimate, and they just refuse to give him that? I feel like that's what they're going to end up with Shayna, where it's like, when they need her, they're always going to go back to, well, she's a cage fighter and she's legitimate, but they're never going to push her as such.
Yeah, I could see that. And I have no idea at this point who other than Ronda could beat Becky. Well, other than Flair. But
Becky kind of said, "Hey, Shayna, I know you're upset about that finish. Let's go again."
when
So
did she
I'm
say
like,
that?
on the .com post interview.
Hmm.
And I'm like, don't do this. Don't do, well, we're going to do it in Extreme Rules. And then I'm going to beat you, and it won't mean as much. Because they do that a lot with WrestleMania matches. Where they go, okay, it's Mania, so we'll give the babyface the win. But we got to 50-50 it so Shayna can get it at Extreme Rules or whatever. Money in the Bank.
Well, that might happen with the Intercontinental Championship as well. Because we had Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan. Now, I was trying to scramble my feed and trying to get that working and all that. So I'm in a bad mood at the time. And they announced that this match is going in. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. Oh, this match will be better. Like, this is one of the first matches that when they announced like this card that I was like, I can depend on this. You know, even if there's not a crowd, these guys are going to do great. They're great in the ring. They know what they're doing. Even though the feud's not the most like amazing thing in the world, it's kind of got some interesting elements to it. This could be a hell of a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn tear the house down and Bryan win the Intercontinental title. And this sucked. I was so underwhelmed. It's not that it's the worst match ever, because it wasn't, but this just felt like this was the setup match on SmackDown to set up another pay-per-view. This is WrestleMania. I don't care how like weird this WrestleMania is. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell us this is WrestleMania. It's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You should just turn your brain off and enjoy it like you would any normal WrestleMania, and then go. But we're gonna book it as if it's not. Then you deserve to get shit on because this was stupid.
I want Callum to go last because he probably saw more of this than either one of us. But here's my experience with this match. I'm watching the intro. I'm writing up a post on Fightful about the Undertaker limited series that's coming to the network. Looks phenomenal, by the way. And
I didn't see that.
Bryan is doing the thing where he's running and chasing Sami, and Nakamura gets in the way, Cesaro gets in the way. Gulak takes them out, and I go to publish the post. I turn back around, and Sami Zayn is running away with the belt, and he's already won. So I have no idea how that happened or how long this match was, but my assumption is it had to be underwhelming.
All right, so I guess I'll go through my experience in this match because, yeah, this was the lowest point of the night for me. Again, as Tony says, it wasn't the worst match of the night because that's definitely, well, for me, it's Elias and Corbin, but this was still just essentially it boils down to me. There's
a Tony
lean
phrase.
on that line, lean on that line for a bit. You know that. The future is completely uncertain for WWE. You don't know when another show's going to happen. We know we've got Raw and NXT coming up, but beyond that point, we have absolutely no idea what's going to come up. So, quit with the story for one night. You've told the story leading up to this match. Don't do a match which is supposed to build to another match down the line when you have absolutely no idea when that match will ever take place. Instead, look at what you've got. You've got Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan, two of the greatest wrestlers of the past decade plus, and tell them you've got 20 minutes, put on the greatest match you possibly can do, and entertain people who are in a shitty mood.
Mm-hmm.
What they do instead is they spend the first 3 to 5 minutes of the match of Sami Zayn just running out of the ring from Daniel Bryan and getting Daniel Bryan into scuffles with Nakamura and Cesaro at ringside. Then I thought, okay, Drew Gulak's taking them out. So what they're going to do is Zayn's going to realise he's in a corner. Bryan's going to beat him up for a bit. Sami Zayn's going to retaliate, and they'll start having this great match. No, what happens is that Bryan just beats the shit out of him for 5-6 minutes. Zayn hits a clothesline, and we think, okay, this will be the start of it. But then, no, he just elbows Bryan's, forearms Bryan in the face a couple of times. Bryan takes all of that stuff and then starts beating the shit out of Sami Zayn again. Just keeps beating the shit out of him, keeps beating the shit out of him. Then Cesaro and Nakamura come in and they attack Gulak from behind. And then Bryan takes them out with a suicide dive, climbs to the top rope, and then gets hit with a big boot and pinned. That's it. And I don't know how long this was. It was definitely, it couldn't have been any more than like half the length of the women's tag team title match. And it was just so disappointing considering what these two could do if they were just given time to put on a good match. But no, the story had to come first. Fuck you.
So let me see if the people on Wikipedia that are usually pretty good on this kind of stuff, let's see if they've got times. No, they don't currently. Oh, wait, yeah, they do. Okay, so the women's tag title match was 15 minutes and 5 seconds. This was 9 minutes and 20 seconds. Really?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, a lot of that, like 2-3 minutes of that was Zayn just walking around the ring.
Yeah, so it's like that barely counts at all. This just felt to me like if this was Fastlane, it would still be annoying, but at least you'd go, okay, the whole game plan is they're going to actually finish it at WrestleMania. And for that matter, they don't need to finish every single feud at WrestleMania. It's not like this is like some kind of rule where it's like they have a match, that's the end of it, they never have any more rematches, whatever. They could do kind of shit where it's like Daniel Bryan has a good, solid match with Sami Zayn and Sami wins in some kind of way. Or they could do a really good, solid match and Bryan wins and Sami gets a rematch at some point or something. Well,
typically, I would completely agree with you, but we don't know when that next match is going to be.
That's what makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not like we know once that April 30th thing goes down that Money in the Bank is still happening. And then that becomes, okay, well then we're just doing Money in the Bank and we'll just do it there. Because even then, I would say, why are you sacrificing the WrestleMania thing for that? Because WrestleMania is supposed to be the grandest stage of them all, the showcase of the immortals, the end all be all, the show of shows. And it's like, so what did you do this year at WrestleMania? We did a little kind of like a shenanigans to set up something in the future. Isn't that what Raw and SmackDown are for? Yeah. Well, why didn't you just do that on Raw and SmackDown? Oh, we did. Yeah, we've been doing that for a while. So you did it at Mania too? Yeah, well, that's the thing in WWE is a lot of times we set something up to set it up, to set it up, to set it up, to set it up. And then once we get to the point where everybody's so sick and tired of it, we drop it out of nowhere, and then it just doesn't happen. So Lana and Bobby Lashley, by the way, are, and it's like, oh my God, come on, you gotta be freaking kidding me. This was so disappointing because it was something that had so much potential to it. If it was just the King Corbin thing, yeah, it was stupid, and I didn't like the Corbin and Elias thing, but at least that was like, oh, I knew it was gonna be kind of crappy. This was like, oh, this might be the saving grace for these kind of things. That made it so much more underwhelming and so much more disappointing. So by this point, I'm full on like, all right, screw it. WrestleMania's done. It's over. It sucks. Call it a night. I don't want to do this anymore. Especially because then we know that we're getting not the real SmackDown Tag Team Championship match that we should have. Of course, we're not getting anything the way that we should have. I feel like I have to keep stressing this so people don't lose track of the idea that, yes, I understand they're doing the best of what they can do. Given the circumstances, yes, everything would have been better if it would have been at Raymond James Stadium in front of 80,000 people. Yes, I get it. And I'm trying to judge everything based off of for what it was worth, given the circumstances, etc., etc. But it's still disappointing that you get 3 of my favorite tag teams of the past 15 years or so, John Morrison and The Miz, the Usos, and the New Day, and you set up this idea of they can do a triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania for the tag titles. And it's like, that's awesome. That's going to be fantastic. And then it becomes, well, and you go, what? Well, what? Well, The Miz isn't going to be in the match. And we'll let you know what happens. Well, I'll let you know basically right before the kickoff. It's like, really? Okay, fine. So we end up getting instead John Morrison defending the SmackDown Tag Team titles on his own against just Kofi Kingston and Jimmy Uso. One little note that I didn't write down, but it's a mental note. I think that this pretty much solidifies the idea that Jimmy Uso is like team captain of the Usos. I've always kind of thought that he was like the main Uso. Now I think it's even more so. And I think that they picked the right people. and I loved the match. I had said with the Raw Women's Championship match, one of my first notes was smackety smack smack, and my first note for this one was clickety clack, because I was just like, I like the sounds. It's not what we were supposed to get. It's not as good as it could have been, but I thought that this was a lot of fun. The flips were great. The spots were cool. The tightrope with the Spanish fly, I like that. I like the trash talking. I think that it might have been Rob that you were pointing out something about the trash talking, right?
I had said that I really like the no fans aspect because you're getting more into, okay, I can hear everything they're saying to each other. Like Jimmy Uso threw Morrison into the ladder, like viciously, and he just said, yeah, now your face is a pancake, boy. And it's just like, that was gold. It was fun.
There was the one part where he's saying like, all right, everybody, like push through it or something like that.
Yeah, Kofi, they took the ladder bump, and Kofi looked at Jimmy and was like, push through. And it was just like, that's kind of a nice little moment that you wouldn't get if there was an audience.
I like that. Go ahead, Cal.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's just your classic spot fest ladder match. There wasn't really much of a story by any stretch of the imagination in it. It was just, yeah, let's just go out and kill each other for like 15 minutes, whatever, and that's fine for this sort of thing. If they're willing to do that, and they definitely all really tried hard to put on a really good show, then yeah, that's totally fine for this sort of night. The cool spots were like the starship plane from the top of the ring post onto the draping ladder. That was good. I thought Morrison put on a really, really good performance, in particular in this match. Morrison walking the tightrope for the C4, Russo running into the barricade, and Kingston just throwing a ladder at him to knock him off. That was pretty harsh. The one thing, again, going back to WWE's excellent camera work, there's a point where Morrison's draped over a ladder, and Jimmy's climbed a ladder in the corner and he's going to splash onto him, but Morrison just throws him from the top 20 odd feet to the floor, and the cameraman misses the landing.
Oh,
I'm like, well,
it's got to be.
Does that mean they had a crash
pad?
pad? Yeah, I was going to say that. If they had a crash pad, they somehow managed to get it away pretty quickly because they panned to it pretty soon afterwards, and there was no crash pad there. So if that was the case, then that's fine. But then there was also just the idea of, wow, like 2 minutes later, Jimmy Uso's back and he's climbing a ladder to try and chase upwards. So, I mean, if you're going to do that spot, fine, but that's got to take Jimmy out of the match. Like, if you're putting him back into it, don't do something as dangerous, or have him go through, or have some more stuff planned for Kingston and Morrison in the meantime so he can recover. I thought the finish was a little interesting, and I guess it was unique in a certain way. They all grabbed the title belts at the same time to bring them down, but then Kingston and Jimmy hit Morrison and knocked him off while he was clasping the title belt. So the title belt essentially just land on him, so he wins the match, even though he was knocked out in the process. I thought it would be even funnier if they'd had the situation where they both beat up Morrison, he falls out, and they're both clutching the tag team titles, and they became a makeshift tag team in the meantime, like Kofi Kingston and Jimmy Uso are the tag team champions now.
Since everybody was Kofi plus blank equals something boom, it'd be some kind of like I don't know, some lockdown plus boom type combo, or the boom so's or something stupid like that. They did that whole boom, air boom and R boom, and yeah,
Dave Boomish.
I loved the ending though. I thought that was really cool. So this took me on like, okay, now we're on an uphill kind of turn where I like this a lot, and now even more so, I'm thinking, well, when we can get them to actually have more stuff to film, and we can get like another pay-per-view, or we can get whatever, definitely do the match. Do the proper match. Miz and Morrison versus Usos versus New Day. Do the ladder match. People aren't going to be complaining. It's not like it's going to be, oh, we already saw that. And it'll be awesome.
Oh, every match that was advertised for this event should occur ASAP. That being said, I really liked this match. I thought Kofi came to play. He did a really cool where he springboard onto the ladder and hit a hurricane run. I thought that was really cool. And I loved the finish. So it was thumbs up for me.
Then we moved on to Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. We've already talked a lot about my idea that I hated the whole 5 months to build up to a singles match type thing. And I was enjoying the match pretty well, given the circumstances. And then it ended in a disqualification. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. I was pissed.
I wrote in the group chat, somebody needs to go check on his blood pressure now.
Yeah, that was the point of the night, which a bunch of, we usually get together in the basement. We usually watch pay-per-views there, and obviously we can't because of the whole social distancing and all that stuff. But we were trying to figure out a way to do a Zoom thing, like a lot of other people have done. And at the beginning of the show, I clicked on. It was like 6:30 or something when we were all trying to get that sorted out. And I had my microphone muted and I had my video camera, my webcam off for a bunch of these matches because I realized during the women's tag title match, I'm like, I've got too many screens up. I got to write this article and write that article and do this all at the same time. It's too much for me to be involved in this chat. And at this point, I decided to put the chat back on. And the first thing that two people had said was, "You look like you've aged so much in the past 2 hours." And I'm like, yeah, I feel like it.
That's my favorite.
And then when I read your thing right after they had said that comment, I was just like, somebody's gonna check Teddy's blood pressure. It's like, no, I mean, we've talked before all this stuff happened of me being like, I don't know if I can find a pulse, and that's before COVID and all that stuff. So, yeah. When I said at the beginning of this, Patreon is going to be a big deal, and hanging by a thread. I could bang my head on the wall all day long about that kind of stuff, but I was super annoyed, and then they did the right thing. They had Owens grab the mic and say, that's not how this is going to go. We need to restart this as an ODQ match, and then they had the rest of the match, which saved this by so much. If not just because Owens jumped off the WrestleMania sign, and that was cool. And Owens won by pinfall.
Chalk that up to a spot that you will never see again. Owens got to jump off of the sign. That's pretty cool in and of itself. I thought it was fine. I really enjoyed the shit talking here because there's a moment where as soon as it's no DQ, Rollins is hitting him with the stairs, he's hitting him with chairs. You really hear it. And right after he gets hit with the chairs, Rollins is walking away from him and he just goes, "You're always going to be a bitch. You're always going to be..." You wouldn't get that in a normal environment. That being said, by the time he hit the stunner and beat him, I felt underwhelmed by that finish.
Yeah, I appreciate these guys went all out, really. Rollins coming out in some sort of ceremonial robes get up with his arms stretched out wide to suggest the Messiah stuff. Owens wearing a KO Mania 4 t-shirt. I thought that was... I do like the fact that he's just branded KO Mania and he's making that a thing with every appearance that he makes. I think the first big spot that caught my attention was the Falcon Arrow onto the ring apron.
Ow.
Yeah, that looks like it sucks. And then, as Rob said, there's just tons of trash talking, Owens just shouting him, come on, Messiah, come on, God, show me what you got, that type of thing. And I think at one point Rollins was calling Owens a fat piece of crap on the floor after the restart. I don't know what really gave Owens the power or command to make it a no DQ match afterwards. I don't know what special powers he'd been given to book matches on the fly.
He was given the power to put smiles on people's faces.
Yeah, but that
People
was
power.
But that was obviously what was necessary because this couldn't have ended with a DQ. So the WrestleMania sign spot was great. All the trash talking towards the end of it. Obviously, the stunner is an underwhelming spot because Owens' stunner is not That's great. Yeah, it's not Stone Cold. And I have to say that Rollins' groaning and moaning was a little bit overbearing towards the end of it.
I thought it was equal parts really funny, really disturbing. Because I mean, when he jumps off of the thing and he's just like, I'm like, is this like the giraffe noise from South Park the movie?
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think the real Messiah made as much noise in his final hours than Rollins is making during this match.
Overall, though, I liked this segment more than I thought that I would.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was a decent match.
And if this would have been like a regular WrestleMania and this would have went down, it would have been one of those things where I would have said at the end of it, okay, now don't do this anymore. Because it took 5 months to get to this point, and I don't feel like that was still worth 5 months of this. But it was like, all right, good. Okay, now move on. Like, thumbs up. Don't do that anymore. Yeah. Then we had a little backstage.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Kind of not backstage. I don't really know what you would call it. During stage, on stage, whatever thing. But R-Truth pops up. What wasn't it like on like the podium thing?
Oh, I thought you were pitching to Heyman, but no,
Heyman was afterward. Yes, they're on that little balcony, whatever. I'm assuming it's podium's the right word for it. But R-Truth goes over to Mojo Rawley and Rob Gronkowski and says, in so many words, remember I've got the 24/7 title and you can pin me at any time? And they go, oh yeah. So they pin him. Mojo Rawley does. Gronk tried to. Mojo Rawley pulled him off and pinned R-Truth. So now Mojo Rawley is the 24/7 champion again. Which that was another callback to the idea of me going, I'm pretty sure that a bunch of people were saying that you would not believe all the crazy things that Rob Gronkowski is doing. And so far he has said, I'm excited, and failed to win the 24/7 championship by just laying down.
Now, I'm a fan of Triple H. I don't think it's a secret. But, man, is he batting zero with me right now with these, oh, it's going to be great. Oh, it's going to, wait till you see the Roman Reigns thing. It's going to play out in such a unique manner. Wait till you see what Rob Gronkowski does. He does so much. Now, granted, we're only one night in with Gronk. Maybe it'll be okay. But so far, Hunter is just a hype man that doesn't deliver on anything.
Yeah, it's, a couple weeks of, hey, when I see you, man, I got this really great joke. Can't wait to tell it to you. You got to hear it in person, though. You got to hear it. It's so great. You're going to be crying your eyes out laughing so much. I can't wait to see it and all that stuff. And then when you get there, the guy goes, okay. So, guy walks into a bar, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah. And then he goes, well, that's it. And you're like, huh, that's the big thing. Okay. That's, you weren't, okay, that's it. So
you motherfucker. Like,
yeah. At that point, at least make it to the point where you're like dragging it all out. And the joke is that you drug it all out or something like, one of my favorite jokes of all time is the one where it's like you go on and on and on and on about the whole, your wife's been in a car accident and she's paralyzed and all this other stuff. And then the guy's like, oh my God, that's horrible. And the guy goes, no, I'm just fucking with you. She's dead. Like, it's like, that's one of my favorite jokes because it's like, it goes on and on and on. And the punchline is just like, wow, what the hell? Like that. I love that. And this, I felt like, oh, is this like some kind of a game? Like, is this what the game is all about? I'm going to tell you something and it's not going to plan out. And then I'm going to chuckle because I've known this for a week and a half. It's ridiculous. I'm like, if we get something with Gronk tomorrow, okay, maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But at least for tonight, like you said, batting zero, man, swing and miss with this kind of stuff. It didn't help at all afterward that we got Paul Heyman cutting the same freaking promo that he's done already, because that's what we need at WrestleMania is, remember that promo we've done 7 times? That one. Oh, Drew McIntyre's not going to win tomorrow at WrestleMania. I know, you said it. You said it on Monday. You said it the previous 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 Monday. I get it.
But did they say it the previous Monday?
Probably. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't care. This promo was excellent. I loved it. I just thought, I don't care if he's saying the same thing over and over again. He says it in enough of a different way each time that I find them all incredibly captivating.
So here's the thing.
The last one, but I didn't love this one.
Here's the thing with Heyman. Yeah, he plays the hits, but they work, and they're usually spectacular. I mean, I get where you're coming from with it's the same promo, and it's not a spoiler, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler, and all that, but they're good.
I kind of like the approach that this one took about the idea of just portraying Brock Lesnar as somebody who's not even of this species, just like a superhuman who's gonna just like prove himself over and over again. I also like the camera angle they used for Heyman as well, because they shot it in a certain way which made him look really like additionally fiendish during that promo.
There's your Cthulhu, Tony. Brock Lesnar's Cthulhu.
Cthulhu rule. That's gonna be a thing.
I did enjoy the line of "I failed for 20 years to explain just how once in a lifetime Brock Lesnar is." That's a great line, and I think maybe I'm buying into the hype, but I'm not counting Brock Lesnar out. I think he might really deliver with Drew McIntyre tomorrow.
Oh, I don't think that McIntyre's a guarantee in the slightest bit. Not at all. In fact, my gut tells me they can't possibly have make the same mistake over and over and over and over 1,000 times. And my brain goes, "You thought that before, jackass." And then I go, "Yeah, you know what? Can't count out Brock Lesnar. He won at Mania against Roman. He won at Greatest Royal Rumble against Roman. He beat Braun Strowman at Crown Jewel. He won the title. He won the Money in the Bank that he wasn't even like involved in, and then won the title from Seth Rollins to lose back to Seth Rollins to win it over Kofi in a couple seconds. And so it's like, yeah. And at that point, that's where I'm just sort of like, all right, I get it. Like, I don't need to waste a couple minutes to promote that. At this point, are you watching WrestleMania on Saturday night with all the stuff that's going on with WrestleMania and not planning on watching it tomorrow night, and that promo would have made a difference? I wouldn't have, you know?
It's still good.
But then we got Universal Championship match. Goldberg against Braun Strowman. And if you are wondering why it's Braun Strowman, well, here's the big explanation. It is. We didn't get a chance to talk about this because we didn't do, we were potentially planning on doing a dark cast, and I had far too much to do, and I was far too angry. Last night on SmackDown, and we've talked about this a little bit leading up to this point right now, but Triple H had said, we all knew for the past week or so, Roman Reigns was not going to be competing at WrestleMania. He got replaced. They didn't clarify who. They were going to, and it was going to go down in a unique way. Don't judge this until you've watched the whole movie. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's wild ride or whatever you want to call it. But unique was the way that he used to describe this at the very least. And instead of getting, I don't know, Braun Strowman attacks Roman Reigns and some kind of weird feud starts, or we get some kind of makeshift mini tournament happen, or Braun Strowman wins a match against so-and-so to get the Goldberg thing, or Goldberg, attacks Braun Strowman or something. We get Michael Cole saying, we don't know if Elias is going to be competing. You're going to find out tomorrow. Also, Braun Strowman's going to replace Goldberg. Anyway, we're going to go to commercial break. It was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know that happened until until I complained to Rob about how stupid it was that they did the Elias thing. And Rob was like, what about the Strowman thing? And it's like, wait, what? And I had to rewind it. And then I'm like, no, okay, I must have missed something else. And I go on Twitter and everybody's like, you've got to be friggin' kidding me. What the hell with this unique and all this stuff? And I'm like, oh my God, WrestleMania is garbage. Like, it's just kind of this idea in my mind. And part of me was thinking maybe they're going to explain it tonight. How do they explain it tonight?
Okay, well, hold on. Because we've seen Tony have therapy hour between the predictions podcast and a little bit on this one. Now it's my turn. This absolutely sent me through the roof yesterday when they were just like, oh, hey, it's Strowman. And you try to give them the benefit of the doubt because, all right, these are extenuating circumstances. And okay, I get that. But couldn't you at least just say, give us anything with Braun Strowman? Realistically, this guy has not been seen on television since losing the IC title to Sami Zayn. Goldberg is 20 years of destruction. He beat The Fiend in 4 minutes. You couldn't give us something? And then I figured this one out, Tony. The unique manner is that we squashed Goldberg. In 2 minutes, Goldberg gets beaten. That's the unique manner. But it's not gonna matter because everybody already knows that Strowman was the worst villain, and the second you get the chance, Roman's gonna spear his ass and take that belt. But it's okay because, hey, wasn't that unique? And Braun Strowman can always say he won the world title at WrestleMania and he beat Goldberg. This sucked. And I mentioned this before. Had they chosen to end WrestleMania with this, I would have totally been like, okay, I hate this. I hate everything. This sucks.
Well, I am going to disagree about something. I put this down as a highlight, but I put it down in a highlight in the sense of just throw your hat up in the air, whatever. Like, sure, it's a highlight. Who the hell we to judge this weird ass WrestleMania at this point, kind of a thing. But it's a highlight not for anything other than the idea that I am a Braun Strowman fan. And Braun Strowman now officially won the title. He did beat Goldberg at WrestleMania. They do all that other kind of stuff, whatever. So to me, I was like, they did it. They actually did it. And that in its own right is something that I was just like, oh, wow, okay, like that kind of thing. I was stunned about it. But that in no way makes up for anything that's leading up to this point. And part of me feels a little guilty. I know that I do not control the universe, but who knows if karma is a thing. How long was I crapping on the Fiend and I was saying this isn't going to work out well? And then it ends up being like, well, we're going to take the title off of him, give it to Goldberg, and we're going to do this whole thing with Roman Reigns, and then we get this instead and whatever like that. And I'm like, well, I was wrong about Cain Velasquez, so give me a break. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But I absolutely, passionately, vehemently, forcefully, ferociously hate how WWE did so much of this. I think that it is absolute 100% bullshit to have Triple H say this is going to go down in a unique way and don't judge it until it's already done, and for them to announce the match the way that it was. I know that they can't just film extra things like that, but if they knew that Braun Strowman was doing this match because they filmed the match, they could have filmed, at the very least, 30 seconds of Braun Strowman backstage with Goldberg saying, I know that the plan was Roman and he's out, well, I'm going to fuck you up at WrestleMania. At the very least, they could have done it a minute before they walked out to do the match. There's no excuse for that. And they thought, we'll put up a graphic, that's it, you'll do it. We'll do it on the night before WrestleMania, so there's not as many people that are going to be tuning in, and if they want to tune in for the Roman thing or whatever, haha, we got you, or whatever, and there's less time for people to complain, and whatever like that, whatever kind of like weird shenanigans they had in mind and all that. But even if I try to give them the 8th level benefit of the doubt of, I know this wasn't the plan, and I know that you couldn't film a whole lot, and I know the time was not the right time for the Roman thing to happen, and I know this, and I know this, and I know this, and no. Don't have Triple H build it up. If I know that I'm not a good cook, and I am not a good cook, I'm trying to learn, trying to do some things here and there. Made some Rice Krispie peanut butter chocolate covered balls the other day. They turned out great. But I will never tell somebody this is going to be the best meal you've ever had in your entire life, knowing that it won't be. Because then they just don't like it as much as if I would have said, maybe this will be okay and whatever. Then they go, it's better than I thought it would be. You give yourself more credit, whatever. If Triple H would have had that thing, and instead of saying all that, if he would have said, look, we were in a real big bind. We hope what we did is something that you guys are going to like. Then when they did this, I would have been like, oh, okay, I get it. But you don't build it up. It's being like, you got to watch until the end because it's crazy. And then it's like, okay, so Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. There's not a damn person on this planet that thought that match was going to be more than what it was. The only difference was, does Goldberg pin Braun or does Braun pin Goldberg? That's it. 3 spears, 3 power slams, a 4th power slam in the end. That's all we thought that it was going to be anyway. It was going to be spears and Superman punches and whatever. So it's not like this is like, but we did something crazy and you never could have seen. Of course, we could have seen it coming. That's exactly what everybody knew was going to happen. That's what happens with Goldberg every single time now. So what unique way? He lost? Who cares? The hell?
Part of me really wants Callum to go, yeah, I liked it. Moving on.
Like, don't get me wrong. I am a fan of Braun Strowman winning this championship. I hate the way that he won it. Like, that it didn't have any build whatsoever. They couldn't get any kind of steamrolling. It's not going to matter. And like you said, the minute that they get a chance to put it on from Braun Strowman over to Roman Reigns, they'll do it. Or they'll have the Fiend beat him and then Roman Reigns will beat the Fiend or like, whatever it's going to be like that. They won't keep it on Braun and it's not going to matter. But I'm a fan of Braun Strowman winning it. I just hate that this is like, they better not look at this and go, that was a success. They better look at that and go, we might have barely gotten away with this. We can't do this kind of stuff anymore. Callum, I'm tagging you in here.
Okay.
My blood pressure's going up, I think.
So in terms of like the way they built up to this match, or the lack of building into it.
The way they built up to this.
Yeah. Lack thereof, should I say. I mean, you can't say it wasn't unique. I mean, I don't recall a World Championship match at WrestleMania being like buried within a medical update of another superstar before. So that's kind of so I think Triple H delivered on what he was expecting there, but no, it's an absolutely shitty way, and the only reason I'm not super mad about it is because I don't expect anything less from WWE at this point. So that's why I don't get super angry about this sort of stuff. I like the fact that JBL at the start of the contest talks about the fact that neither of these guys work by the hour. Sorry, say that again. They don't really seem to work by the minute.
How long was this?
It was 2 minutes 13 seconds, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 3 spears in a row by Goldberg after like a little while. Then Strowman kicks out 2. Another spear. He gets himself for the jackhammer. Strowman immediately reverses that into a power slam, then another power slam, then another power slam, then a running power slam, and then he pins it. And yeah, that's I didn't expect anything less or more from this. It kind of just played out pretty much as you would expect it. The only difference being that Strowman, if you're having Strowman win, then he's the one that gets the final move. But if it's Goldberg wins, then he's the one that gets the final move. Right. That's kind of the only difference you make. So I can't say. Essentially, this is typical WWE in that after so many years and months of Strowman being super over and being in a position where you could give him the World Championship and it would mean a lot more, you wait until this moment where he's almost public enemy number 1 because of what he's been saying about people in the independent circuit, and he's nowhere near as over as he used to be, and he just lost the Intercontinental Championship in a match. And now this is the time that you give him the World Championship. That's kind of like A+ work by WWE in terms of timing and everything like that.
That's been a thing lately, though. Remember Rollins, and this I'm going way back to 5 years ago, when his dick pics came out, it was like, well, he's losing that briefcase. They're not keeping that. That's a shame. And like a month later, he's champion. They've been doing this thing lately where if you get yourself into a hole, they're going to stand by you even more.
So that means Randy Orton wins tomorrow night because he keeps sticking himself in the holes.
Well, I think there's a difference in the fact that Rollins' dick pics coming out wasn't exactly saying that he controlled himself, whereas Braun Strowman's just an asshole, and clearly has some sort of his own perspective on stuff, which is completely wrong. So I feel like it's a little more in Strowman's hands what he could do.
Mm-hmm. He's got big hands too, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Goldberg got these hands.
Yeah, I mean,
get these hands, but they had no handouts for you, indie worker. Go and die in a hole somewhere.
Yeah, and for the record, me being a fan of Braun Strowman, not a fan of those comments. So it's this is the worst time for you to have given him the championship, where you've got no build whatsoever on a card where nobody is there, and everybody is. At most, the feelings that I've been getting from people from WrestleMania before and during and after have been, man, it could have been worse. Nobody's been like, this is great, and I'm so excited, and it's going to be awesome, and it worked out the way that I thought it would, and I love it, and I can't wait for tomorrow. Nobody's done that. Everybody's kind of just been like, it wasn't that bad in some ways, and that was okay. I'm going to eat a pizza slice now, and that kind of thing. But most of it's been, this is awful, and I can't watch it. This is terrible. I'm not going to do this anymore, etc. So it's the worst possible time to have that kind of thing. The match isn't good. It's not like this is going to go down in history as remember that classic match that he had with Goldberg? No. So it's really momentum is gone. PR is not as good. Credibility, not as good. All timing bad, arena bad, setting bad, all this and maybe that's why they finally did pull the trigger, because maybe they were at a situation where they felt like they just absolutely had to, because every time that they should have in the past, they didn't, and they thought that they could away with it.
I'm sorry, but there's no reason other than, and I've been a fan of this person. I used to say, oh well, maybe Bruce can talk in Vince's language, but I think we can say with this experience that if you want to say Vince is out of touch, if Bruce Pritchard has any SmackDown creative control, which according to Eric Bischoff, he might not, but if he does, then how out of touch are you? Why is Strowman winning? Well, he's big. There was such an easy way out of this. Put Cena and Wyatt on first, and then the winner fights Goldberg. Why? Why Braun Strowman? Anybody? Anybody? Give me an answer. Why Braun Strowman? Why right now? He hasn't done anything in a month.
He's the only other big star on SmackDown other than Roman Reigns.
John Cena.
He's
Cena's
not on
there.
SmackDown.
But he's there. But he is there.
No, he's there for WrestleMania. He'll maybe be there for SummerSlam. That's it.
But I think that if there's anybody you can convince, hey, John, we need you. You can tell me John Cena wouldn't take the belt for, what may be an off time anyway of a couple of months and just lose to Roman immediately?
I think with the whole movie business being up in the air, it's probably not the way that it is, but then again, all the MCU movies got pushed and all that, so that's good news yesterday.
Fast 9 got pushed a year back. He's not doing much right now.
Well, still, I'm sure filming anything is going to be more problematic and all that. And maybe the reason why they did this is maybe they just thought Goldberg's too expensive. We don't want to potentially pay him to do anything in the future. We have no idea when that'll happen. Let's get the title on a guy that we know is on the roster and is one of our guys and lives, I think, lives in Florida.
Yeah, I think so.
So that way, if we need to have somebody to do anything over the course of the next bunch of weeks, he's there. It's easy. That kind of thing. And I mean, it makes more sense to give it to Braun Strowman than it does to give it to Shelton Benjamin or Heath Slater or somebody like that. So yeah, the circumstances are like,
well, hold on. So your reasoning is, well, Braun is better than a jobber. I
mean, well, there's nobody.
Yeah, Braun is second on the totem pole behind Roman Reigns in terms of actual full-time guys on SmackDown.
Yeah, because the only other person would have been Daniel Bryan, and they had to have him lose in a shitty match to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, no, that was the other option they could have gone with, but that would had to change basically all plans up really for that. But yeah, Strowman was, if you're going to put him on, if you're saying, okay, we want to put the title on a full-time guy, we can't rely on Goldberg being around all the time with this stuff, and so we want to get the title off him, then Strowman, realistically, when Roman Reigns pulls out, is your only option.
But here's the other problem. Now you got to figure out another way to bring Goldberg back and do another match with him, because that's not his last match.
Well, no. But you can essentially do what you did with the Ziggler thing. Just give him a match with somebody and have him just swallow them whole.
They'll do Roman Reigns versus Goldberg.
Yeah, they will do that
for some reason. They're like, Goldberg gets like some kind of injury and he can't wrestle anymore or something like that. But like,
the thing is, Goldberg still has value. He has value as just being a nice novelty attraction that you just use to destroy guys that don't have any direction on the roster with.
And they're able to, fingers crossed, because I want them to start filming things as soon as possible. I want the whole world to go back to normal. I'm desperate for everything to go back to normal. And I'm not even one of those people that's like, I can't wait to go outside and do whatever. I'm like, I'm fine staying around here as long as everything else goes back to normal. I'll take the hit, whatever. But like, fingers crossed that they're able to film Money in the Bank, for instance, or that they are able to film something at the end of May. And if they're able to do that, then maybe they're able to get Goldberg to come back and they could do some kind of match with Roman Reigns and it's a number one contenders match or something like that. Like, they can do some stuff. And there has been situations in the past in WWE where there's been bad situations and they've bounced back from it. And it's just been, oh, that sucked. And we moved on. I mean, this is the worst situation in a lot of ways than we've ever gotten in WWE, so it's kind of hard to say when or if or whatever will end up happening with this, but it's like, Braun Strowman winning the championship is not the end of the world. And given the circumstances, it's a better option than a lot of the other things that they could have done. And I am a Strowman fan, so I like that. So it's like that, I give that a highlight for as much as it's worth, but I cannot tell them, I'm going to pat you on the back and say, good job, because this was so poorly done. And I would never want the creative team and the people responsible for the promotion, the marketing side of things, I would never want them to think for a moment that this was like good or that it was good enough. This was a fail that happens to be most likely the best possible scenario that they could have gone with for plan D or whatever.
Okay, well, we can move on because at least the next thing I love.
So the main event was the Boneyard match. And before we talk about that, I'm going to throw a couple quick plugs out there that I forgot to mention throughout this whole thing. Very quickly, merchandise shops. If you don't know by now, TeePublic and Redbubble, there are shops for A Mango tees, for Fanboys Anonymous, and for Smark Out Moment. So if you want to pick up a t-shirt or some stickers or magnets or whatever it is, pillows, duvet covers, I don't know. There's a lot of different things. Lots of products and lots of designs. If you want to go ahead and check that out, check it out. If you buy anything, it goes directly towards keeping me sane. And I mentioned the Patreon, but there's also the Patreon and the merch shops and everything else that's happening on not just Smark Out Moment, but Fanboys Anonymous. And fanboysanonymous.com is my geek culture website where I do everything on the movie that doesn't exist right now, or the TV that isn't really kind of working out the way that it should right now. Spectrum, topics like video games, superhero talk in general, just anything that's like that. Even maybe music gets into the mix a little bit here and there and stuff, but that kind of stuff, not wrestling specific, but anything like that, you're going to find that on Fanboys Anonymous. And over the course of these next bunch of weeks or months or years or decades or however long this is going on, I am hoping that I don't completely lose it and that I can spend some time having some fun with a lot of things. And I wrote up a couple ideas last night of some things that I want to do in the future. So if I get the time, and if I have the motivation and all that, whether it's Patreon motivation or if it's self-motivation, you're going to see things like what's the 7 necessary elements for the best ever James Bond movie blueprint. And you're going to see a Mount Rushmore of something, hopefully podcast form, with these three guys or whoever might, and maybe I'll get some new people in the mix if people want to do certain things. I reached out to a friend of mine last night saying, hey, you want to potentially do a fan tracks for the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, which nobody would ever watch, but you want to do it? Like, that kind of thing. Like, so stay tuned to fanboysanonymous.com. Hit up the Patreon for that if you want to see more for fanboys. And I guess you're just going to see what happens when it happens, because I don't really know. So, yeah. But on the more cinematic side of things, we had the Boneyard match. This was the main event. AJ Styles versus The Undertaker. They hadn't clarified what the Boneyard match was all about before. Didn't really quite understand what the Boneyard match was this time, but it was essentially a buried alive match for the most part, because that's how they ended it. And this was very much final deletion type style. It's very stylized. It's more of a vignette than it is a match. And I've seen people absolutely love this, and I've seen people absolutely hate it.
Whoever hated it was wrong. Callum, I didn't even ask you. Please tell me you like this.
Oh, this is a match of the year candidate for me.
Oh,
this
fucking
is awesome.
Okay.
I think people that dislike it, I'm not saying that they're wrong for disliking it, because this style of match isn't for everyone. But for people that do enjoy this style of thing and the final deletion stuff and stuff of that ilk, this was absolutely epic.
I said this to a friend of mine. I said, this is the best thing I've seen Undertaker do in years. And I might really go all the way back to, since losing the streak, this is the best thing The Undertaker has done. And I thought this was phenomenal, no pun intended. They really gave life to the character again. The AJ Styles kind of being in street clothes, I thought helped it out. Undertaker just being that kind of dick badass that we used to talk about in 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey. You can go back and listen to all the archives. Was fucking great. He cuts his arm open and just looks at AJ like, look what you made me do. You made me bleed. Now I'm really angry because you made me bleed. And
you know what that reminded me of? You made me bleed my own blood.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a Nelson thing, right?
But it's like, you get through all of that, then we get druids who were not practicing social distancing.
Oh, that's exactly the note that I wrote down. I was like, what the hell? You got more than 10 people here for sure.
And Undertaker fucks them all up because he's in full badass mode and he's chasing AJ Styles down. AJ thinks he's got the better of him for a second, and by the time he goes to bury him, Undertaker's behind him because he's still got supernatural powers, and I'm okay with that. And then AJ Styles runs up the side of a house and gets choke slammed off, and then is literally, please don't bury me. Please don't. I want to give you guys a chance to talk, but I fucking loved everything about this. 5 stars, 10 out of 10. This WrestleMania will always be remembered as having a great Undertaker match, which was well overdue. Fantastic.
Go for it, Cal.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree with much of anything in that regard. Yeah, it was just an epic display of what the Undertaker's character's evolved into, because he's now taking on a more of the old American badass persona, but he still has the quote-unquote powers of the dead man. He was more visceral with his language. He was just acting like I guess he would communicate as a normal person with AJ. AJ kept talking about how he was an old man and he was washed up. I think he called him like a broken down old bitch at one point when he was beating him up.
Yep.
They were fighting on the hearse. They were fighting, like, AJ spearing him through a fence at one point, attacking all the druids, attacking Gallows and Anderson. But the fight on the roof, like throwing Gallows off one side and tombstoning Anderson on top of the roof. Yeah, it was just tons and tons of fun. Like, it was silly, it was campy, it was everything that you kind of it's blending the badass like fighter brawler Undertaker with the campy nature of the dead man character, and just blending together in such a really excellent way. And just the way the match was put together, like the final shot of AJ's glove just coming out from the dirt.
Yeah.
It was just filmed like it's a brilliant piece of filming more than anything else. Like, obviously all the action is great and the trash talk and all that other stuff, but as just like a piece of film put together, it's like 20 minutes. It's a brilliant like short film almost right at the end of it. Like Undertaker driving off into the darkness on his motorcycle.
He raises his hand and the fucking house gets set on fire with his symbol appearing in laser lights. And that's how WrestleMania ends, with Undertaker riding off as Metallica plays in the background.
It's as
good as you're gonna get.
Yeah, this is the best thing Undertaker's done at WrestleMania since the Punk match.
Beautifully said.
And I think when it's all said and done, this is probably who knows what happens going forward, because I've never expected anything like this to happen again with The Undertaker, but this might be the last time we can really say that Undertaker stole the show at WrestleMania.
I agree.
And he did it with AJ Styles. AJ Styles is now a WrestleMania main eventer.
Fantastic. So, another great element of this match. AJ Styles got to main event WrestleMania with The Undertaker.
Of course, he died to do it, so that's kind of...
Yeah, he did die. I don't know what we're going to do going forward.
But yeah, I just thought it's a really, really... This is the reason why I was so happy at the end of it, because even though there were a lot of up and downs in the other aspects of the match, some good matches, some bad, there was nothing that topped this, and I don't think... I almost am... I don't want to say it makes me grateful that that WrestleMania didn't take place in the stadium, but it's a case of they wouldn't have been forced to think this creatively and think this interestingly if it was just a match in a ring at WrestleMania 36 in Raymond James Stadium. This forced them to think, and this forced them to be creative, and this was one of the occasions where they absolutely knocked it out of the park.
I'll say this, I'm not grateful, but Undertaker damn sure should be, because this was a return to form. And everything just from that. What's my wife's name? After he throws the man off a building, dragging him, what's my wife's name? Say my wife's name. Like, I just fucking everything about it, man. Fantastic.
So I liked it. If you told me this is the best thing that happens over both nights, it's not good enough to make WrestleMania great for me. Like, this is not going on my list of match of the year. It's hard for me to look at this as a match, to be honest.
Why?
Because it's a vignette. It's a movie. It's a backstage fight. There's no pinfall. There's no referee. Like, my brain can't process. It was a Barry Wyatt
match shot in a graveyard,
and not in front of a crowd and all that. Like, it's just, there's no bell ringing. There's like, it's hard for my mind to process it as anything other than a promo, and that makes it tough for me to be like, oh, this is a great match and stuff like that. And I admire some of the fun stuff about it. Some of the stuff I thought was very hokey and in a way that I don't like. Like, admittedly, as much as I love The Undertaker, my favorite character of all time, my second favorite performer of all time, all the other kind of things that go along with that, I will admit that, like, if I were watching this with somebody and they weren't familiar with it and I wanted to impress them, I would feel embarrassed about WrestleMania. And when it would come down to this, I enjoyed it, but I would feel like people would look at me and go, really? You thought that was like, this is like some C movie type stuff, and I'd have to try to explain to them, yeah, but this is different and that's whatever, and it's not that this is like good. Like, if it's like, if this was a movie, this wouldn't be, the quality acting is amazing and it's an Oscar thing, or like the cinematography is whatever. it's not that. It's just that this is something different. Different can sometimes be fun, and like a lot of things that go along with that and stuff. So it's like my brain looks at this and goes, it turned into something pretty decent. And this is kind of fun, and I liked it, and this was cool, and I like the moments of like, you still want to talk? Hey, what's my wife's name? Like I like that stuff. I loved when the Undertaker's in the grave and he pops up on behind AJ Styles. I thought it was a little bit of a missed opportunity that he didn't have the whole change into the different attire thing, because he had mentioned the Holy Trinity and that he wasn't like, he pops out of that and he's wearing the full-on Undertaker garb. I think that could have been really cool. There was a moment where missed opportunity. It's a nitpick. It's something that they didn't do it, and I can't like fault them for not doing it as being a negative, but I thought it would have been kind of cool if when he said, "Oh, you think I'm going to bury you?" Nah. If he would have gone, "You're going to bury yourself," and handed him the shovel and been like, "Go do it. If you don't, I'm going to do it for you." That kind of thing. Like, instead of the whole boot knock around thing, like I think that would have been a little bit cooler. I admittedly laughed at the end with the light show of the Undertaker's logo, because I thought, haven't I seen that at Halloween on somebody's lawn? And I was like, oh man, like now that I thought that, kind of ruined it for me a little bit. I was wondering why the Boneyard didn't have any bones. That was kind of funny. And this was not anywhere near as bad as I expected it to be, but not as good as I think that we would have gotten if we would have gotten the whole Raymond James Stadium, thousands of people, put it in a casket match type of thing or something. I think that would have potentially come out better, actually. And
no way.
No.
Completely disagree.
Nope.
This is a billion times better than an actual match would have been between these two.
If they had been inside of a stadium, Undertaker would have wanted to try to steal the show, and it wasn't going to happen.
I mean, that very well could have been a thing, but I feel like I kind of wish that we could have gotten something like that. And maybe if that would have been the case, if somebody would have afterwards, like, some parallel universe where the world's not awful and everybody made the right coin flips, there could be somebody saying, hey, wouldn't it have been interesting if we would have gotten the Boneyard match? And somebody would have been like, that would have been great. It would have been so much better than the thing that we got. Like, I'm fully aware of, I don't know, I'm not a prophet about that kind of stuff, but I do kind of feel like this doesn't feel like WrestleMania to me, and this doesn't feel like the end of WrestleMania, and it didn't feel like a match, and it didn't feel like whatever. So I'm not as big on it as a lot of people are. I don't hate it by any means, but it did feel weird to me. And I think if the things leading up to this would have been more positive, then at the end of this, I would have only been elated. And I feel like your mood influences you. It biases you. I'm not in a good mood going into this. I haven't been in a good mood since, we'll figure that out at some other point. But, I was in a better mood heading into Elimination Chamber than I was heading into this, for instance. And I was not in the best mood heading into Elimination Chamber. So it's like that, combined with a lot of things disappointing me on this card, made it to the point where I couldn't feel as happy about this, because it's just, I'm working with negatives here, and yeah, you're gonna bump me up a little bit, but if I'm still like a -8, I'm still not gonna be all like, I got a smile on my face. It's just like, okay, that didn't suck. There were some good things. Good. I enjoyed this. Good. That's good. And it's like, overall, I didn't like this whole card. Like, I wish that this was not WrestleMania. I wish that they would have postponed it. And if you would have said, this is what you get, you can go back in time, you can change this and whatever. I don't know about tomorrow, might change my opinion, but I don't think that there's a single thing good enough on this card that makes me feel like it was worth it to the point where I can't potentially think in the future in hindsight that it was a mistake. And now that ends me with being like, I don't want to end on that kind of note. So I will say again, there are things I really liked about this match and some other things. I'm not the biggest American Badass fan. That's not my Undertaker. But you give me American Badass doing the things that he did with like, you made me bleed and that kind of stuff. That's the way you book American Badass. And AJ should not have won this match, so I'm glad that he lost. Glad that they threw Gallows and Anderson in there and they were stooges that got their asses kicked. Kind of curious why there's druids working for AJ Styles, but whatever. And at the end of the day, as weird and as problematic in some ways and some other things as some things are on all this, AJ Styles and Undertaker are going to go, we did a weird thing. That was fun. And that's cool. So AJ might not get that match that he wanted from Undertaker from 15 years ago when he was able to do different things and stuff, but he wasn't going to get it to begin with. He's never going to be able to say that he did something that anybody else did. They will always have that one weird Boneyard match, and it's going to be something that people run in video packages forever. So that's cool. So my thoughts about going into WrestleMania tomorrow are kind of the same as what it was tonight. I'm hopeful about some matches. I'm nervous about some matches. How you guys feeling?
Tomorrow night's card has the bulk of matches that I was excited for going into this. So I think I have more faith in tomorrow than I did in tonight. And I'm looking a lot more forward to the Firefly Funhouse match because of how good this came off. Now, if that match is completely different, then I want the backstage, okay, who filmed what? So we know who, where the creative minds lie there. But tomorrow night's card looks pretty good. Edge will be on there. I mentioned Cena, Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar. Lots of great stuff on tomorrow's card. I'm enthusiastic. What about you, Calum?
I can't say that I'm necessarily enthusiastic. I'll walk into it with the same amount of caution that I did in going into this one. But I ended up the night, even though get like I said, ups and downs, that I ended the night satisfied and happy with what I saw. Can I say that it's definitely not the greatest WrestleMania of all time? It can't be, but it's not the worst one. And there are bits of it that I just thought were really interesting. I feel like this is, and I know not everyone will agree, I think this was the best main event to a WrestleMania since 31.
I'll agree.
Which means that it can't possibly be considered the worst WrestleMania of all time by that standard. And obviously we've got the second night to happen, and like Rob says, there's some good matches on there. It would be interesting to see how the Firefly Funhouse match is shot after seeing the Boneyard match. Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre should be very physical. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte should be good. Edge versus Randy Orton will be very intense as well. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley,
I was waiting to see what you were going to say about that.
Yeah, but there are some good things that potentially are in store for the second night as well. But overall, I would give the first night of WrestleMania a thumbs up. Wouldn't give them 2 thumbs up, I'd give them a thumbs up. Considering the circumstances, if you just take all of the circumstances into account, it probably would be 2 thumbs up. It's incredible that I'm walking out of this feeling positive in any stretch of the imagination. The fact that, okay, this was just a mostly fun night of wrestling for me, as opposed to just thinking, oh, this was all terrible, I wish things could have been so much different. I understand people that take that perspective. I just feel fortunate that I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I will say, if we're going straight off of we put smiles on people's faces, we want to make people forget what happened. I, at several points throughout the night, was completely entrenched in wrestling, and by that regard, they did their job. So, gets a thumbs up for me as well. I will not give them the 2 thumbs up.
Well, I can't wait to hear what everybody has to say. I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow, good or bad. I can't wait for it to be Thursday and for me to not have WrestleMania on the mind. I can't wait for a lot of these things to be over, and I can't wait for, hopefully, WrestleMania 2021. I hope that this is not the last WrestleMania I do coverage for. And if so, I hope tomorrow night's awesome. So,
all right. I'm not letting you end this podcast on such a downer. Nope.
I mean, we're at a 2-hour podcast. How long you want to wait until I figure out something else to say?
I don't know. Maybe we should wrap it up, Callum.
No, listen. He can take any perspective that he wants out of this. We can't force him to be happy if he's not.
Well, no, I'm just worried about him.
You gotta laugh. If you don't, somebody else will. And I apologize for that. If it turns everybody off and they're all like, "Oh, I want to listen to this because I just want to be," somebody left a comment the other day, it pissed me off, where they're just like, "Oh, how come you're not just happy about everything?" It's like, because the world's fucking falling apart. Whatever, I know some people are looking forward to when there's like the Tony might flip out about some things or something like that kind of thing, or whatever. It's not my goal. I don't want to be negative all the time. I want to be positive. And it's just hard times right now. So I'm hoping tomorrow night I'm like, oh, this is great and all that other kind of stuff. And I'm going to go into it with anxiety, and I'm going to go into it with fear and trepidation and all the other kind of stuff. I'm going to go with it. But I'm also, just as I always am, going into it with an open mind. I thought that Sami Zayn and Bryan was going to be amazing. Disappointed in that. I thought I would really not like the Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins thing. Worked out better than I thought it was going to. You're always going to get the honest opinion from me. Guarantee you that. And I really appreciate all the people listening. I really appreciate all the people that have been listening throughout this whole time, giving us all the support that you can in any fashion that you can, and all the kind of support that you give us in the future too. So I hope you all loved WrestleMania. And if you did, tell me why. If you didn't like it in different ways, tell me why about that too. But I hope you loved it. I hope you love tomorrow night. We will do a post show again tomorrow night. And then, we'll carry on after that and see what happens with other things. But thank you for listening to this. We have some other plugs to talk about from Rob and Callum. I've already did my plugs. So, Callum?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. The power rankings as well was one of the articles you can check out on the Smark website, one of the weekly stuff. This latest edition was the end of season, essentially, for the year's 2019-2020 season. So you can check out the final power rankings table to see who finished out on top, who made the most appearances over the course of the year. And yeah, we'll be starting off with the WrestleMania reboot edition for the next season. I don't know how long that season will end up lasting, considering if a quarantine extends even longer and longer. But suffice to say, if there is wrestling going on, then I'll continue to add stuff to that. If not, then we'll see what happens.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Check out everything I'm doing over at Fightful and WrestleZone.com, because even if there's no wrestling, as long as there's podcasts and stuff, there will be content. So go check out Fightful. Go check out Fightful Select. Got some interesting WrestleMania tidbits about Andrade, all that good stuff. Check them all out. Check out all the weeklies, and just thank you for your support.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening again. As I mentioned before, thank you in advance for listening tomorrow, hopefully. And we will see you then. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.